Hey everyone, Kyle Walker here. If you love cars, fixing things, or just want to understand your vehicle better, you're in the right place. I share hands-on tips, smart driving advice, and straight-up car talk without the fluff. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stick around till the end. You don't want to miss what's coming up. Let's get into it.
Talk about the automotive industry, then quite often the plunger is called a piston, and the piston is called a plunger. This is not quite the right interpretation, because there is a definite difference between them. It is necessary to understand the design features and nuances of the work of plungers, and also to understand how plungers differ from pistons, whether there is a significant difference between them, or whether the words of many motorists about their identity are fair. What is a plunger? Plungers are called special displacers, which are characterized by their cylindrical shape. An important aspect is that the plunger has a length that far exceeds the diameter of the part. Some even compare it to a jump rope on a handle. It is important to understand the difference between a regular piston and the plunger in question. There really is one. In fact, it is a kind of piston. Only it can be used in mechanisms and devices where it is required to create higher pressure parameters compared to classic piston-type pumps. The plunger has one more peculiarity. Here the seal is located directly on the cylinder and carries out its movement on the plunger surface at the time of reciprocating movements. This is commonly referred to as a plunger pair. Plungers have gained wide popularity in the manufacture of radial and axial plunger hydraulic machines, as well as in the plunger-type pumps themselves. The most striking example of the use of this element is the fuel supply system in diesel engines, realized on the basis of a fuel injector. It is in high-pressure fuel pumps that plunger pairs are actively used. Compared to pistons, the elements in question allow pumps to be built with higher pressure ratings. This is explained by the fact that plungers require a higher degree of cleanliness on the outer surface of the cylinder. With piston counterparts, the focus is on the precision of the inner cylindrical surface, which is technically much more difficult to realize. This is a great insight into the difference between a plunger and a piston and why it is wrong to consider them synonymous. If we talk in simple words about what a plunger is, it can be described as follows. It is a type of piston that can create high pressure in mechanisms. Significant characteristics. The volume of the working medium that the mechanism will displace depends on the parameters of the stroke length of the piston used. By changing this value, it is possible to adjust the fluid supply over a time interval or segment. If you emphasize the work of the plunger or rotary plunger mechanism, then these hydraulic machines have a very high accuracy of processing parts. As a result, the clearance available between the outer and inner surface of the cylinder in the plunger pairs used may not exceed 2 to 3 micrometers. Plunger pairs are characterized by their ability to withstand very high pressures. Again, as an example, it is worth considering the fuel injection process on diesel engines. Here the pressure can reach values of about 200 MPa. Read also, is it possible to replace the windshield with your own hands, and how to do it correctly? Plungers in the fuel injector. The fuel pump, more precisely the high-pressure pump, is installed on diesel engines and is designed to supply fuel under high pressure. It is the increased pressure parameters that make it clear what the plunger is for. It uses a plunger pair, which is rightly called one of the key components of the pump. This pair consists of a sleeve and the plunger itself. The latter takes the form of a long cylindrical piston. It moves inside the sleeve when the pump is running. The plunger, installed in the car in the pump assembly, performs reciprocating movements, thereby injecting and sucking fuel. On the sleeve of this pair, special holes are provided. These allow the fuel to be pumped into the pumping unit. In parallel, the plunger, displacer, acts as a regulator for dosing the fuel quantity. All this means that the steam is able to accurately measure the volume of fuel supplied to the internal cylinders of the internal combustion engine, creates the required pressure parameters at a particular moment of fluid supply. In order for the pair to be able to perform the assigned functions, the elements are subjected to increased special requirements. These requirements are as follows. High-strength materials are used for the surface of the sleeve. High-strength materials with additional hardening must also be used for the plungers. The steam is heat-hardened in the factory. Depending on the technology, the hardness can range from 58 to 75 hardness units. The couple must be able to move freely while avoiding even minor fluid leaks. The gap between The sleeve in the plug must not exceed 1 to 3 microns. Each part must be individually selected after sleeves are matched to the displacers. They are further adjusted. This is how the desired operating effect is achieved. And here there is a tangible difference between the piston, since the latter is not designed to work in conditions of creating increased pressure. The plunger copes with such tasks perfectly. Operational features. Continuing the topic of the fuel injector, which is most relevant to the discussion of the plunger as part of automotive assemblies. It is worth noting some operational features. The design feature provides that in the plunger pair there is a minimum gap between the surfaces of the two elements. Therefore, when operating the pump, there are increased requirements for maintaining the optimal condition of the internal combustion engine feeding system. Read also, ways to determine the state of the engine by spark plugs to make the plunger bushing pair work effectively. It is recommended to fill the tank with fuel of only high quality. The presence of water, as well as other foreign impurities, can adversely affect the operation and condition of the plunger. When water penetrates into the microscopic gap, the fuel film ruptures, which at the same time performs the function of lubrication of this part. Dry operation contributes to high friction and overheating. As a result, the plunger is able to jam, and the entire fuel pump will fail. Even with a small amount of water in the fuel oil, traces of corrosion can form on the surfaces. In the case of mechanical particles, the plunger may jam. Troubleshooting. There are several characteristics and signs, as far as car engines are concerned, that indicate the failure or wear of the displacer. This can manifest itself as symptoms such as difficulty in starting the engine, floating revs after starting the engine runs erratically, the engine may start to run on fumes. There is an increase in the level of noise during operation, which was not observed before. In some cases, it is possible to notice the plunger knocking when the fuel pump is running. When operating under load, the power unit's power drops. The vehicle movement is accompanied by perceptible jerks. In some situations, the engine even goes out of control. To check the plunger as part of the high-pressure pump, you need to use special equipment. With its help, you can find out how worn out the displacer and the bushing. Restore the operation of the fuel injection pump can be restored in two ways. Perform a complete replacement of worn and failed components. Repair parts. The essence of repair is to restore the exact fit, provide the necessary clearance to the required factory parameters. But to do this in garage conditions will be extremely problematic. You will have to go to a car service. Summarizing, displacers, which have a cylindrical shape and a length considerably greater than the part diameter, are indeed different from pistons. Therefore, a separate distinction is made between plunger-type and piston-type pumps. The latter cannot cope with the tasks that their counterparts based on the plunger sleeve pair perform without problems. These are mainly high-pressure applications. The most striking example of a plunger in relation to the car is the fuel injector. This device ensures stable operation of the diesel engine. But at the same time, there are increased requirements for the manufacture of the plunger pair, their fitting to each other, as well as to ensure operating conditions. In conclusion, understanding the differences between a plunger and a piston is essential for grasping their unique roles in various applications. While both components serve to create movement and pressure, a plunger is typically used in simpler mechanisms, often for tasks like unclogging drains, whereas a piston is integral to more complex systems, such as engines and hydraulic devices. By recognizing these distinctions, you can better appreciate how these tools function in our everyday lives and the specific purposes they serve. Thank you for watching, and we hope this video has clarified the roles of plungers and pistons for you.